I declare open the fourth meeting of the annual session 2019 of the Executive Board of UNDP, UNFPA and UNOPS. I recognise, ladies and gentlemen, that the room is less than full. I know that there are negotiations going on and delegations are tied up, but we expect people will be freed up as the next short while evolves here. So we'll get going with our own business. I don't want to detain you any longer. So good afternoon to all of you. This morning we concluded the consideration of agenda item 9, the annual report of the Executive Director. So now we're free to move immediately to agenda item 10 on evaluation. And under this agenda item, as you are well aware, we have two reports. The annual report of the Director of the Evaluation Office on the evaluation function of UNFPA, and that you will have seen in document DP/FPA/2019/5, and also the evaluation on the UNFPA response to the Syria crisis 2011 to 2018, and that is in document DP/FPA/2019/CPR4. Both the evaluation reports and the management responses are available for you to consult, to look at on the UNFPA website. So before we get going, I'm going to introduce you to the members of the podium. We have to my right Mr. Dereje Wardoffa, the Deputy Executive Director of the programme. We have Mr. Marco Sagoni, the Director of the Evaluation Office, to his right. We have on the left, we have Mr. Louay Shabanaye, Regional Director for the Arab States region. And we have, of course, Horst Rusch, who is the Officer in charge of the Executive Board branch of UNFPA. So we're going to proceed in the following manner. Mr. Sagona will introduce his annual report on the evaluation function. And following his presentation, Mr. Dereje Wardoffa will present the UNFPA management response to the annual report. Then we have Mr. Sagoni again, who will introduce the evaluation of the UNFPA response to the Syria crisis. That will also be followed by the management response by Mr. Wardoffa. And we will then have a series of other presentations, but I will open the floor, of course, for comments. So I'm going to get going now and invite Mr. Sagoni to present his annual report. Mr. Sagoni, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, members of the Executive Board, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to present the 2018 annual report on the evaluation function. Organized around 9 key performance indicators, the report provides a comprehensive overview of the performance of the function, including key achievements and areas for growth and improvement. The evaluation function contribution to coherence in evaluation across the United Nations, as well as its support to national evaluation capacities, are also discussed. Looking ahead, the 2019 Programme of Work and Budget for the Evaluation Office also is presented. Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, please allow me to begin with a few words on the Evaluation Office alignment with and contribution to the ongoing UN reform process. The ambitious reform lays the groundwork for strengthened coherence and collaboration within the UN development system. Fully committed to its implementation, the Evaluation Office, and function more broadly, took concrete steps in 2018 to align with the objectives of the reform. I am pleased to report that the Evaluation Office significantly increased the number of joint and system-wide evaluation plans. Nearly 50% of the evaluation planned in 2019 and 2020 are either joint or system-wide. The Evaluation Office also increased engagement in system-wide work, working within the United Nations Evaluation Group, UNEG, to advocate for the integration of evaluation within the revised UN Cooperation Framework Guidance and the UN Funding Compact. As in previous years, the function continued to contribute to coherence and collaboration within the UN by actively engaging with UNEG, participating in United Nations regional evaluation groups, collectively undertaking UNDP evaluations, contributing to and reporting against the United Nations System-Wide Action Plan on Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women, and participating as a member of the Interagency Humanitarian Evaluation Steering Group. Madam President, I will now turn to the evaluation function performance. An independent strategic review of the evaluation function was finalized in 2018, resulting in, inter alia, a revised evaluation policy. The revised 2019 evaluation policy, approved by the board in the first regular session of 2019, aligns with internal Unfpa strategic frameworks, including the Unfpa Strategic Plan 2018-2021, and global normative frameworks, including the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. The revised policy is the result of a comprehensive consultative and transparent process carried out throughout 2018. Within this overarching frame, and the continued efforts by the function to strengthen clarity and transparency in reporting, the Evaluation Office developed a set of 9 key performance indicators against which the function is to be assessed. This is the second year the evaluation function and the Evaluation Office is reporting against these indicators. Out of 9 key performance indicators, 2 have achieved their targets, 4 are on track, and 3 require improvement. Please allow me to take each in turn. First, on those indicators for which the targets have been met. Continuing the trend of previous years, manager responses were submitted for all corporate and decentralized program evaluations. Similarly, 100% of completed evaluations at both decentralized and centralized level, together with their quality assessments, were posted on the evaluation database, an open and publicly available website. Both indicators have met their targets and are expected to continue to do so in the years to come. Turning now to the indicators that are on track to be achieved. The implementation rate of plan evaluations improved significantly from previous years, with 92% implemented in 2018 compared to 55% in 2017. The development of a new financial ring-fencing mechanism contributed significantly to this improvement. The annual implementation rate of evaluation recommendation actions also improved, reaching nearly 90%, a notable increase from 2014, when only 77% of recommendation actions were implemented. Evaluation coverage increased from 80% in 2017 to 90% in 2018, signaling an important expansion of the evaluative evidence available for decision-making, including for the development of new country programs. Finally, as in previous years, nearly all country offices were staffed with a monitoring evaluation focal point or officer. Madam President, member of the Executive Board, also significant progress has been made in most indicators. There is scope to further strengthen the use of evaluation evidence in country program development and investment in the evaluation function. In addition, in 2018, we registered a potentially negative trend in the quality of evaluation reports. I will take each in turn. First, on the quality of evaluations. While considerable progress has been made in the quality of evaluations reports since 2014, the percentage of reports assessed as good or higher decreased from 95% in 2017 to 80% in 2018. However, in absolute terms, only 2 reports were assessed as fair, while 5 out of 10, or 50%, were assessed to be of very good quality. Critically, no reports were rated unsatisfactory. While we will continue to monitor the evolution of this indicator carefully, we do not believe this to be a systemic issue. Second, on the use of evaluative evidence. The evaluation policy and the 2018-2021 evaluation strategy place a strong emphasis on the importance of the use of evaluation results to inform programming at UNFPA, including the development of new country programs. With the aim of monitoring the performance against this priority, the Evaluation Office developed a new key performance indicator and is reporting on it for the first time this year. While evaluation informed all new country program documents approved by the Executive Board in 2018, the level and quality of use, that is, the degrees to which country program design was clearly informed by recommendation from a country program evaluation varied, with only 79%, that is 15 out of 19, of country program documents meeting the quality requirement. Please allow me now to turn to financial resources. On the whole, the budget invested in evaluation has increased year on year from 2014 to 2018 at both corporate and decentralized level. The amount budgeted in 2018 for the evaluation function was 8.40 million, with a 4.23 million budgeted at the central level, the evaluation office, and 4.17 million budgeted at the decentralized level, representing 0.96% of the total Unfpa program expenditure for 2018. While in absolute terms the amount invested in the evaluation function increased, there remains scope to improve the overall amount invested as a percentage of total Unfpa program expenditure, with the aim of reaching the 1.4% as stated in the revised evaluation policy. Madam President, distinguished delegates, before turning to UN coherence and national evaluation capacity development, please allow me to say a few words on centralized evaluations. I am pleased to report that 100% of centralized evaluations scheduled in 2018-2019 have been completed or are on track to be completed. The Evaluation Office will manage 11 evaluations in 2019, 6 of which will be completed in 2019 and the remaining 5 in 2020. As shared in my opening, 50% of these will be joint or system-wide. As I shared earlier, the Evaluation Office is fully committed to enhancing coherence among the evaluation functions within the UN system and supporting strengths and national evaluation capacities. Please allow me to speak first on UN coherence and then turn to national evaluation capacity development. Unfpa Evaluation Office supports UN coherence through sustained collaboration with other United Nations entities, including through the United Nations Evaluation Group UNEG, the Interagency Humanitarian Evaluation Steering Group, and the United Nations System-Wide Action Plan on Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women, as well as through the conduct of joint system-wide and UNDP evaluations. In 2018, the Evaluation Office continued to actively participate in the Interagency Humanitarian Evaluation Steering Group. Reflecting the increase in humanitarian support, in 2018, the Evaluation Office became a member of the Active Learning Network for Accountability and Performance in Humanitarian Action, ALNAP, the global network of NGOs, UN agencies, members of the Red Cross and Crescent movements, donors, academics, and consultants dedicated to improving response to humanitarian crises. The function has increasingly engaged in joint and system-wide evaluation, continuing and deepening the trend from previous years. At the regional and country level, UNFPA actively supported UNDP evaluations managed by the United Nations system in 2018 through technical and/or financial support. Please allow me to say a few words on the function work on supporting national evaluation capacity development, a central pillar of UNFPA evaluation policy. An area of growing importance, UNFPA contributed to national evaluation capacity development through active engagement in multi-stakeholder partnerships. Developing the capacity of use in evaluation was also prioritized. A member of several multi-stakeholder partnerships, in 2018, the evaluation function further strengthened its participation with EvalUse, an Eval Partners global movement of young evaluators that engage up to 20,000 youth all over the world. UNFPA led a coalition of UN entities deploying young evaluation professionals as UN youth volunteers across the UN system. This collaboration supports the inclusion of youth voices in evaluation and the capacity development of youth through skills development and knowledge transfer. The function also engaged in multi-stakeholder partnership to enhance the demand for and use of country-led evaluation by national policymakers, further supporting national capacities. The Office participated in Eval Colombo 2018, a global event organized by the Global Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation and other key stakeholders held at the Parliament of Sri Lanka. As a follow-up, UNFPA and UNICEF supported a similar event at the Parliament of Morocco, convening parliamentarians from Middle East and North Africa region. Finally, in 2018, the Evaluation Office also contributed to several events to strengthen both the production of and demand for country-level evaluations. This included participation in an evaluation week organized by the government of China and the Asian Development Bank, as well as contribution to an interministerial conference on South-South and triangular cooperation. Taken together, these and other activities reflect the function's ongoing commitment to supporting strengthened national evaluation capacities. Madam President, members of the Executive Board, this year marks the 50th anniversary year for Unfpa and the 25th anniversary of the International Conference on Population and Development. With the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the UN reform process underway, the international development community has redoubled its efforts to advance sustainable development, peace and human rights, including through the implementation of internationally agreed development goals. Evaluation plays a central role in improved effectiveness, accelerated rights fulfillment, and the acceleration of the implementation of the SDGs by surfacing what works, what doesn't, where, and why. In this spirit, I would like to underscore the Evaluation Office's continued commitment to the production of credible and useful evaluative evidence to support Unfpa, and indeed the broader development community working on sexual and reproductive health and rights, and maternal mortality, the unmet need for family planning, and gender-based violence and harmful practices, the organization's 3 transformative results. This concludes my presentation, Madam President. I thank the Executive Board for the continued support and guidance.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Zagoni. I now will give the floor to Mr. Wardoffa, who is going to give us the management response. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, distinguished members of the Executive Board, and Your Excellencies, good afternoon. Allow me, on behalf of UNFPA management, to present our response to the annual report on the evaluation function of 2018 and seek your support in endorsing its program of work for 2019. Madam President, high-quality independent evaluation function is critical if we are to strengthen accountability, evidence-based decision-making, and learning. We are pleased to see the performance of UNFPA evaluation function continue to improve in 2018. In response to the Executive Board Decision 2019/1, paragraph 5, the financial ring-fencing mechanism of evaluation budget was put in place by the Evaluation Office in collaboration with the Policy and Strategy Division and the Division of Management Services. That, in turn, contributed to a much higher number of planned evaluations in 2018. Other measures, such as more robust monitoring mechanisms and more granular evaluation expenditure tracking, also helped UNFPA in identifying and addressing weak links in a timely manner. Further expansion of evaluation coverage will provide us with a larger body of evidence needed to make informed decisions when developing new programs. The steady increase of a number of joint and system-wide evaluations is a sign of evaluation's continued commitment to fostering coherence and synergies among agencies, funds, and programs of the United Nations Development System. Implementation rate of evaluation recommendation action has also seen a dramatic improvement in 2018, reaching almost 90%, a 4.5% increase over 2017, and the highest in 7 years. In line with Decision 2019/1, paragraph 7, we acknowledge efforts made by the Evaluation Office to develop a communication strategy and work together with the Policy and Strategy Division on a new knowledge management platform of UNFPA staff. Both the strategy and the platform envision going beyond traditional dissemination and engagement in order to expand their reach. We highly appreciate the release of the revised handbook on how to design and conduct a country program evaluation at UNFPA and the updating of the e-learning course on results-based management and evaluation. UNFPA management agrees with the Evaluation Office that there is room for further improvement in some areas, most notably with regard to the quality of evaluation reports and the use of evaluation findings in program management. To improve the use of evaluation findings, we rely on the Program Revision Committee, which ensures that the development of country program takes into consideration evaluation findings and recommendations. Furthermore, the Policy and Strategy Division has embarked on developing a protocol for country offices certification and results-based management called the RBM seal. It introduces the use of evaluation findings to inform programming among standards to be made by country offices in order to be certified. Madam President, let me now turn to the Evaluation Office Program of Work for 2019. In response to the decision 2019/1, paragraph 4, almost half of centralized evaluation planned by the Evaluation Office for 2019 and 2020 are either joint or system-wide. UNFPA management welcomes this trend, as it is in line with the principle of our strategic plan 2018 to 2021 to make partnerships one of the key modes of engagement and to increase joint work within the UN system. We also welcome the Evaluation Office's plan to strengthen the decentralized evaluation system and endorses its 2019 budget, which takes into consideration Board's recommendation 2019/1, paragraph 6, to increase spending on evaluations. Let me also welcome the revised evaluation policy, which distinguished delegates you endorsed at the first regular session of the Executive Board in 2019. I thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Rodolfa. That was the management response to the report by Mr. Sagoni. Now I'm going to ask Mr. Sagoni to take the floor for a second time to present the evaluation on the UNFPA response to the Syria crisis. Mr. Sagoni, you have the floor again.
Thank you very much, Madam President. So, Madam President, distinguished member of the Executive Board, it is my pleasure to present now the main results of the evaluation of the UNFPA response to the Syria crisis. The purpose of this evaluation was to assess the contribution of UNFPA to the Syrian humanitarian crisis response while generating findings and lessons learned that would be of value across UNFPA and stakeholders. Covering the period 2011-2018, the evaluation assessed all UNFPA-supported humanitarian interventions targeting affected population within Syria as well as in neighboring countries. Madam President, distinguished delegates, please allow me to present the key conclusion of the evaluation. Despite a slow start, the UNFPA response to the Syria humanitarian crisis has been appropriate to the needs of affected population over time, with priority to the hardest to reach population. Overall, UNFPA has been more effective at provision of response services than prevention, both in the field of sexual and reproductive health and in the field of gender-based violence. The UNFPA gender-based violence response within the framework of the whole of Syria approach has been exceptionally good, thanks to the high-quality products developed by the UNFPA Regional Response Hub, such as Voices and the Gender-Based Violence Dashboard. However, the inconsistency of inclusion of men and boys in gender-based violence programming across country offices has impeded the ability of UNFPA to fully exercise its leadership in this area. The UNFPA Regional Response Hub has generated high returns on investments in terms of 1, mobilizing significant multi-year funding, 2, advocacy and representation at whole of Syria strategic steering group level, thus increasing the credibility of UNFPA as a humanitarian actor, 3, raising the profile of GBV as a life-saving intervention, and 4, coordination for the whole of Syria approach. However, UNFPA has not adequately reviewed and revised where necessary the role and function of the hub in line with the increasing capacity of country offices. Finally, the evaluation found that UNFPA operational and financial system and structure have not fully supported the effectiveness of the response to the Syria crisis. The increasing reliance of country offices on other resources, less flexible than regular resources, has impaired their responsiveness to a rapidly evolving crisis. The lack of flexibility in UNFPA's system and structure has also led country offices to make inconsistent use of fast-track procedures, surge, and emergency commodities. Madam President, distinguished delegates, please allow me to turn to the recommendations of the evaluation. The evaluation made 7 recommendations for UNFPA's Syria response. First, UNFPA is recommended to recognize the current limitation with monitoring and utilize its expertise in population dynamics to contextualize result data. Second, UNFPA should review the function of the Syria Regional Response Hub in light of changing circumstances and agreeing the future role of the Regional Response Hub. Third, UNFPA is invited to clarify and ensure consistency in its position of the inclusion of men and boys in gender-based violence programming within the regional response and ensure organizational consistency in gender-based violence language and programming in relation to the inclusion of men and boys. Fourth, UNFPA should review the use of fast-track procedures, surge, and emergency commodities and continue advocating with member states and donors for an adequate level of regular resources to increase the efficiency of the Syria regional response. Fifth, UNFPA should recognize the vacuum around youth leadership and step up youth programming and coordination across the Syria regional response. Sixth, UNFPA should resource and support sexual and reproductive health and rights coordination within the Syria regional response to the same level as gender-based violence coordination. And seventh, UNFPA should increase documentation of gender analysis and adherence to international humanitarian principles in the Syria regional response. 2 additional recommendations were made for UNFPA globally. First, UNFPA should use the whole of Syria gender-based violence subcluster as a blueprint for UNFPA coordination responsibilities globally. And second, UNFPA should use the Evaluation Regional Response Hub case study together with a further rapid appraisal of the effectiveness of hub mechanisms of other agencies to develop a blueprint for the establishment of other potential hubs in future. Madam President, distinguished delegates, after 8 years of conflict, more than 13 million Syrians are still in need of humanitarian assistance. The commitment of UNFPA management to learn from and act upon the recommendation of this evaluation should help to enhance further the response that UNFPA provides to those most in need. This concludes my presentation, Madam President. I thank you and the Executive Board for the continued support and guidance, and I'm at your disposal for any question and clarification. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sagone. And I'm now giving the floor to Mr. Wardofa again for the management response to that evaluation on the Syria crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, Your Excellencies and distinguished delegates, it's my pleasure to present the management response to the findings and recommendation of the evaluation of UNFPA response to the Syrian crisis. UNFPA finds the report substantive, relevant, and timely. We have already made progress on many issues raised in the report, and we will continue pursuing priorities as outlined in our response posted on the Executive Board page. In response to Recommendation 1, a series of specific actions were taken to overcome limitations with monitoring, including gaps in data management. In particular, the Regional Syria Response Hub has developed a tool for capturing gender-based violence data. In addition, UNFPA is currently piloting a dashboard for reproductive health data. Our team is developing a global humanitarian resource for utilizing population data to support humanitarian activities across whole of Syria and the neighboring countries with Syrian refugees. And we will continue our engagement with the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, and with the International Organization for Migration, IOM, to expand the use of population dynamics data in that regard. We noted in the recommendation too that the Syria Regional Response Hub has a high return on investment in relation to resource mobilization, coordination, and management of gender-based violence data. To address the need to review the functions of Syria Regional Response Hub and to better align with increased capacity of country offices, UNFPA has revised the terms of reference for the hub. The hub will continue functioning in line with the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2165, and the further revisions of its function will be informed by the evolving dynamics of the regional crisis and new resolutions of the Security Council. Our management has partially accepted the need to clarify UNFPA position on gender-based violence vis-à-vis men and boys. As stated in Recommendation 3, UNFPA has already developed a gender strategy which articulates that UNFPA follows the definition of gender-based violence as per General Recommendation 35 of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. The Fund strongly agreed that programming for men and boys is a requirement in any gender-based violence response. However, we would like to note the cost implication associated with programming to adequately and appropriately respond to the needs of sexual violence, specifically for male survivors. Such funds are currently not available at UNFPA. Thorough analysis is required to assess the financial gap. Given that UNFPA has less than 50% of funds required for humanitarian work, we must prioritize the needs and the areas of response in this regard. In response to recommendation number 4, to increase the efficiency of Syrian regional response, UNFPA is currently reviewing the fast-track procedure, including those for human resources, and has already updated some of them. We have systematized and specifically improved the surge response, reducing turnaround times. However, deployment is still affected by lengthy process of obtaining visas, which is beyond our control. Going forward, the fund will synthesize country offices to comply with surge standard operating procedures following the interagency standing committee scale-up protocols. This will further ensure coherence with the humanitarian agencies. As per recommendation number 5 on stepping up youth programming and coordination across Syria regional response, UNFPA will use phased approach to roll out the compact for young people. We are ready to lead on the compact and on Security Council Resolution 2250 by developing a youth in emergencies program, noting that implementation will require support from donors and expanded engagement with partners. As for recommendation number 6 on resourcing and supporting sexual and reproductive health and rights coordination within the Syria regional response to the same level as gender-based violence coordination, UNFPA has only partially accepted. We wish to emphasize that currently UNFPA is the lead of the gender-based violence area of responsibility of the Global Protection Cluster. We closely collaborate with the World Health Organization, the Health Cluster Lead Agency, and other agencies to address sexual and reproductive health needs in emergencies. However, UNFPA has not been assigned a leading role in sexual and reproductive health coordination. Furthermore, UNFPA needs more funding to adequately support sexual and reproductive health in humanitarian crisis. Meanwhile, UNFPA incorporates basic sexual and reproductive health services in all gender-based violence support. In addition, in the case of Syria Regional Response Hub, the decision was made that it would be more efficient and effective to utilize the funds for sexual and reproductive health support at a country level and not through the hub. We accept recommendation number 7 to increase documentation of gender analysis and adherence to the international humanitarian principles, international humanitarian law, international human rights law, and the international refugee law in Syria regional response. We will do the necessary steps to ensure it is implementation. As emphasized in recommendation number 8 and 9, UNFPA is proud that the evaluation recognized and recommended the Syria gender-based violence subcluster coordination mechanisms to be a blueprint for coordination responsibilities globally. UNFPA is fully committed to leverage further the best practices of the Syria Regional Response Hub to improve refugee response in other regional and country offices. We will use the Syria Regional Response Hub case study report and the experience of other agencies' regional hubs to develop a blueprint for the establishment of regional hubs in the future. Let me conclude my remarks by expressing thanks to the Evaluation Office for the good work done in analyzing UNFPA's leadership role across the gender-based violence, sexual and reproductive health and rights and youth across whole of Syria and the neighboring countries within the Syria refugees. I would like to assure you that the management is fully committed to fully implement the evaluation recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wardolfa. That was the management response. And I would now like to give the floor to the Regional Director for the Arab States region, Mr. Louai, I have to put on my glasses, Shabanaye, to make some remarks, particularly on the Syrian crisis evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just would like to complement some context information about the evaluation and the response that has been made by Mr. Dereje. The first one on the uniqueness of this evaluation. This is an independent evaluation that has a unique exercise for us in the Arab State region. And I am sure of our organization in general will benefit from that. Being first the biggest and the most far-reaching humanitarian response by UNFPA, the impact of which surpassed national boundaries across many countries in the region: Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and Turkey. The second point is related on the program response, as the findings of the evaluation has shown UNFPA at all levels, regional office, country office, and headquarters, worked in harmony with all partners to provide life-saving reproductive, maternal health, and family planning services, GBV prevention services, and support the survivors of violence and others. The third issue is related to the evaluation context and complexity. As you may already know, the exercise covers our response to the crisis between 2011 and 2018, including our cross-border operations, all in the framework of the whole of Syria approach, 3RP, Regional Refugee Response Plan, that harmonized protection and assistance to refugees, including from neighboring countries. It analyzed the organizational structures set up to coordinate the interventions and contributions of the Amman-based UNFPA Regional Response Hub. I am mentioning all this to show the complexity of delivering life-saving humanitarian assistance to those affected by the Syria crisis across the region. I believe the finding, recommendations, and our management response, as presented by Mr. Dereje to the evaluation, will need to be viewed with this mind. Finally, as far the actions of management response is concerned, I will put particular emphasis on the importance of this evaluation. I asked my colleagues in our regional and country office to work closely with other units to articulate a series of actions in order to bring the changes in support of our ongoing efforts to improve our business practices in the region. As the conflict has entered into its 9th year in Syria, more than 11.7 million Syrians are still in need for humanitarian support and protection needs. With the leadership of our senior management at headquarters level, I will continue to work with my colleagues in the regional office and the country offices to ensure we implement all the actions required for a more effective and efficient delivery of life-saving interventions to the people we serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shabanaye. That concludes the remarks then from the podium. So I now plan to open the floor to delegations. We don't have a pre-subscribed list, so if any delegation wishes to take the floor, I ask you to indicate in the usual manner by pressing your microphones. We don't actually have anyone on the list. I see, yeah, but I can't see who the speaker is. Switzerland. You have the floor, delegation of Switzerland.
Madam President, I have the honor to make this statement on behalf of Albania, Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Finland, France, Germany, Iceland, Ireland, Israel, Italy, Japan, the Republic of Korea, Luxembourg, Mexico, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, Turkey, Ukraine, the United Kingdom, and my own country, Switzerland. We thank the Evaluation Office for its annual report. The clear, well-structured, and easy-to-read report in front of us is a valuable instrument allowing member states to easily follow developments of UNFPA's evaluation function. Madam President, in this intervention, we would like to highlight some elements that are of particular importance to us. First, on performance, resource allocation, and learning. We congratulate the Evaluation Office and are pleased to comment on an overall very positive picture of UNFPA's evaluation performance. We are particularly pleased with the significant improvement of coverage and implementation rate of decentralized program level evaluations. Past financial constraints are being addressed successfully by a cooperation of the Evaluation Office and the Policy and Strategy Division, notably through the financial ring-fencing mechanism benefiting in particular small country offices. We value and request to continue these efforts. Accordingly, financial investment in the evaluation function has increased in the last year, even more for decentralized evaluations. With an annual expenditure of 0.96%, we are getting closer to the 1.4 to 3% of total program expenditure as defined target in the renewed evaluation policy. We look forward and anticipate to see this trend continue. As the quality of the evaluations in 2018 deviate from the positive trend observed in the last years, we encourage the Evaluation Office to make efforts to prevent a potential negative trend. The quality of the evaluations must be safeguarded, including by monitoring any potential continuing decline of the percentage of program-level evaluations rated good or very good. Furthermore, we are pleased that implementation of recommendations by management continues to increase. We believe this is a key element to ensure that evaluation findings lead to learning. In this sense, we also welcome the introduction of the new key performance indicator on the use of evaluation in program development. As mentioned in the report, support for better use of evaluation findings is needed. Therefore, we also encourage the Evaluation Office to finalize in 2019
Okay, I'm afraid you have outrun your allocated time, Switzerland. So our next speaker is Canada. You need to watch the time.
We'll try. Thank you, Madam President, for letting me take the floor. My quick intervention is just on the evaluation of UNFPA's response to the Syrian crisis. Canada would just like to note that we really appreciate the transparency of the evaluation and the importance of UNFPA's work in this region that provides critical life-saving services, particularly for women and girls. We support the evaluation's recommendations and encourage UNFPA to continue to focus on its attention on strengthening programming for youth, particularly adolescent girls that frequently are not a focus of humanitarian responses. We also strongly support the evaluation recommendation to ensure that all of UNFPA's humanitarian programming and advocacy is grounded in a comprehensive gender and inclusion analysis, noting that the inclusion of communities such as the LGBTI community will require, programming in the area will require and need to be accompanied by a comprehensive risk analysis and risk mitigation strategies. And just a quick question as follow-up. We've heard mention of the corporate gender strategy that's going to be available. I'm just wondering when it's actually going to be presented or made available to the executive board. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. Thank you, Canada. Your question is being noted here and you stayed within the time. Finland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Finland thanks the Evaluation Office for the evaluation of the UNFPA response to the Syria crisis and UNFPA for the management response. Overall, we welcome UNFPA's strengthened engagement and leadership in humanitarian settings, coordinating interventions for sexual and reproductive health and gender-based violence. We highly appreciate UNFPA's important work in Syria and the neighboring countries, and we will continue to support UNFPA in this work in 2019. We welcome and support the positive findings of the evaluation and note the areas for improvement and the recommendations. And in particular, we'd like to emphasize the need to address inconsistencies in gender and inclusion analysis and the limited focus on or investment in persons with disabilities. And in this regard, we appreciate UNFPA's commitment and plans for action outlined in the management response. Thank you.
Thank you, Finland. So that's actually the end of the list here, as far as I can see. Is there any other delegation who wishes to take the floor? Speak now, forever be silent. Okay. So I'm going to offer the floor now to the Evaluation Office and Management of UNFPA to respond. I'll turn to Mr. Sagoni in the first instance. You have the floor, Mr. Sagoni.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And thanks a lot to all the distinguished delegates who took the floor, including with joint statements. And thanks a lot for the word of appreciations, both on the report as well as on the progress of the evaluation function. We are also taking notes your feedback, and notably the two points that I took note is really in continuing to monitor the quality of evaluation reports. So I really would like to ensure you that the Evaluation Office in cooperation with the Program and Strategy Division will continue, and with the regional monitoring and evaluation advisors, will continue to ensure the quality assurance of the evaluation reports. Mainly, we are talking about the decentralized evaluation reports. So remain ensure that we will pay particular attention on this aspect. And when the second item was about the communication strategy, I have the pleasure to report that the evaluation strategy is finalized now, and we are just finalizing the user-friendly presentation of the strategy, and it will be launched in few days or next week. So, but we will definitely report back to the board, not only on the launch, but actually on the implementation of the strategy that will start happening this year, and we will report back in the next annual report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sagoni. And Mr. Wardorfa will take the floor just briefly.
Just briefly, on the comment regarding the use of evaluation findings and recommendations, we try to emphasize, with this morning and also this afternoon, that we have rolled out the knowledge management systems where we capture learning as we implement, but also from findings of evaluations. And this is incorporated in programs that we design, program policies in particular that we put together, and to any direction that we put in place. And one of the key indicators is 80% of our evaluation findings are incorporated in new country program developments. Regarding the Canada comment, including young people, especially adolescents, into the humanitarian work, there are 4 focus areas in our humanitarian work. One is sexual reproductive health and making sure that women do not die while giving, birth or during pregnancy. Gender area of responsibility, which we discussed extensively, data, and the 4th is youth. So within that, adolescent, would be, central. In terms of the gender strategy, this is under scrutiny, and we don't know a specific date to let you know at this point in time. But we will communicate when it's ready. Hopefully, it is in this year. Finland, in terms of inclusion, gender, those who are living with disabilities, including not only physical disabilities, but also mental health. This will remain an important focus area for us as overarching strategy to include whatever programs we do in humanitarian crisis. That dimension is fully mainstreamed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wardolfa. Is there anyone else who needs to respond? No. I'm looking down at our Swiss colleague. I know that she's not very happy about her microphone being cut off, and I understand that. The rule that we instituted is 3 minutes for individual statements, 5 minutes for groups. I'm told by the Secretariat that you did indeed have 5 minutes. It may not make a lot of sense at times that we do this, but frankly, in our last sessions in the Bureau, we had a long discussion about the fact that many delegations felt they didn't get an opportunity to speak. So I'm bound by the rules, but I just want to reassure the Swiss delegates you're speaking for a very large number of member states, that it will be up on paper, smart your remarks, and that colleagues will have an opportunity to consult them there. So thank you for your understanding. So before I close the meeting, as we don't have any more speakers, I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Horst Roach, Officer in charge of the Executive Board branch of UNFPA, to make a few announcements